Hey guys, it's Lauren here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, or at least for this video, I am trying to work through reading a book that I've been reading for a month and I just never managed to get through. But I finally did get through it, which you will see in this video, but the book was indeed Crying in H-Mart. You know, it's just hard trying to read something and it's a memoir and it's nonfiction, so you just know it's not necessarily going to be the escapism that you usually anticipate when you're reading a book. Like, look, you're entering into a world. It's in your brain. But if that world is nonfiction, then it's less of an escape and it's more something that you take seriously. But I don't know, I feel like the older I get, the more I'm also open to reading those kind of books. And definitely, like, the classes I've taken and evolving as a writer, I've been more interested in different genres. For example, I've started writing poetry more before I used to just despise poetry and everything it stood for. So I don't know, I decided to give this book a chance. I picked it up at the bookstore spontaneously after reading the first page and I thought it was fantastic and I thought I could really get into it. And I think I picked it up at a time when I just needed to read it, I think. That's what I'll say about that. But yes, I will get into what the book is about, which is basically a memoir about this white Korean American woman and her relationship with her Korean mom, and basically how that is connected through the food that they ate, a lot of which have been taken from the H-Marts that she's visited. So that's essentially the synopsis of the book. We're gonna hop in, you're gonna see how I made it through this book, my journey with it, my thoughts, reviews, all that other good stuff. And yeah, I guess without further ado, let's just hop right in. Y'all will not believe. So I brought the ingredients being all cute like an hour ago, over an hour ago actually, in order to start baking the banana bread. And then I realized as I was bringing up the ingredients, the shit was expired. The flour was expired and well, now we have new ones, so hooray for that. But it was an interesting experience. Anyways, let's get into baking, shall we? And talking about Crying in H-Mart. Okay, hey. But yeah, I want to start talking about Crying It in H-Mart by baking, for one, because I went to bake and we had some pretty ripe bananas that need to be handled. But for another, like, Crying in H-Mart is like a book centered on food. And I found whenever I was reading it, it's usually when I was either having just like a meal, like a really good meal. So I figured this was fitting in some kind of way. It's giving on theme. And so that's why we're starting. I love that the recipe for this is very freaking simple. Like, bro, like there's no very specific instructions about it. Okay, but yeah, while I start mashing these bananas, let's talk about Crying in H-Mart by Michelle Zauner. So honestly, I'm really enjoying this book so far. I will admit I've not really had time to just sit down and like fully just like immerse myself in it. But I'm hoping that's something I can do like this second half of the week. Like right now I'm on page 101, so exactly 100 pages through, which is nearly halfway through. And basically I've just found myself reading the book like on the metro, on my way to work, like just in between like in and out spots. I've never like really sat down and read it since I first started the book. So I'm hoping that's something I can do for the second half. But I've really been enjoying it so far. In case you didn't know, the story is basically about, well, it's a memoir by Michelle Zauner, who is also a musician. And it's basically like a meditation on her relationship with her mother, which I found really interesting because, again, it's another story that concerns, well, first generation American, at least on her mother's side. Her mom's Korean and her dad's just a white dude. That's how I'm gonna describe it, but that's the basic synopsis of the story. I do not know. I just found it like really relatable because just any first gen American immigrant story I just find really interesting because that's what I am. In case you didn't know, I'm like first generation Nigerian American, and I think just the familial dynamics are always like very interesting to tackle and interesting to talk about with other immigrant parents. So I don't know, I think especially since I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, which in case you haven't seen it yet, it's one of my favorite movies I think of all time now, that also tackles like the relationship between parents and their children that are first gen American in some way or form, which is not only what the movie's about, but it's a big part. So it makes it really interesting. But let's mash these bad boys. The relationship dynamics are just really freaking interesting. So that was part of the reason I picked it up. Another reason I picked it up, because I picked it up spontaneously. I went on a book trip and I saw it and I read the first couple of pages and I really liked it because in part it doesn't try to white to like the outsider. It's a really personal book. I would say. And there's some details that are almost hard to read. I wouldn't say hard, but it's like you don't normally see it in literary books. You don't normally see it in books in general, where it's like a real story. You go that immersive in your relationship with your parents, which was helpful because it made me not feel as alone, if that makes any sense. Like, not everyone has a perfect relationship with their parents, and reading like the perspective from the author was just really nice, especially considering her especially unique experience with her mom. Which, again, going back to the point, I love this book so much in part because there's so much like vivacity to what is being said. Like, it's very material. There's no sparing of detail when it comes to food, because I think one of the ways that the author focuses on the relationship with the mom is through food and through like the kind of dishes that they eat and the ingredients they have, et cetera, which really immerses you into Korean culture in that manner. But they don't spend every single second, every single minute trying to explain what this ingredient is and how it can be used by, you know, people of that culture. Like, they don't spare seconds for that, which I like, because sometimes if you do that, it not only cuts off the pacing of the story, but it makes it seem as if, oh, you're not writing it as like an actual personal story. You're writing it to like cater to an outsider audience, usually like a white, very like American-centric audience. No, this is very personal, and it felt like almost reading someone's diary, and almost like a chat with a friend, where it's like they explain a couple of details, but they're not going to spend every moment explaining everything, because it's not practical. It doesn't make any sense. Wow, this is mashing very quickly, but again, those bananas. Really freaking right, man. Yeah, so I like the fact that it doesn't cater to it, because I read Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Well, when it came to his book, and I like his writing for the most part, when it came to that book, Between the World and Me, it felt very much like, despite the fact that he was writing for his son, it was written for an audience that was not Black, that didn't grow up with the experience of being Black and knowing what that means in America, which, God knows, it's especially relevant today. But like, for this book, it's like, they're like, okay, well, I'm opening the door, but I'm not gonna explain every detail to you, and you're just gonna have to like read and accept that. And I love that, because I read some dishes where I just looked it up on my own, I was happy not knowing, or, you know, like, there's just so many things, richness in detail, that would not have felt as rich if she stopped to explain every single aspect of the story. Another thing I liked was the fact that it's a relationship with like an artist teenager and a mom that's like very practical and very perfunctory, but not so perfect in a lot of ways. I find that really interesting, because I think that's the dynamic between me and my mom. I love her dearly, but we are very, very different people, and sometimes we clash. So it's nice to like read that relationship, and how some of the ways that they just found like equal ground is through food. And I just find it is particularly interesting, just because I'm Nigerian, again, like I said before, and the food that we eat is really important to the culture. So like, for example, part of me just can't imagine myself being like vegetarian. This is random, but part of me just can't imagine myself being vegetarian or something as a Nigerian American, because a lot of our foods are based in goat meat or just meat in general. So I don't know, that's my personal take on that. Feel free to disagree with me, but it's like things like that. And part of the thing that always like kept my family together, I feel like, was food. Like, we'd always come together and eat whenever we possibly could. Like, especially this summer, I feel like, as I'm older now and I found myself cooking a lot more of the meals. Oh, these are a bit harder to mash. I found myself cooking a bit more of the meals than I did when I was in high school, even though I did actually cook a lot in high school. One of the things that like really brings us joy and brings us together as a family is food. So it's really interesting reading from that and knowing that I feel similarly in a way. Like, it's nice. It's really, really nice. Also, the part of being like an artist daughter, I am in fact an artist daughter myself in some rare form. I mean, I am a content creator and I'm a writer, so that's my main thing. And my parents still don't entirely understand what that means, so it's just nice reading it, especially reading the experience of someone growing up not entirely knowing what they're doing as an artist and still somehow being okay today. I feel like that's, I mean, like, they're a published author, so that was nice to read. I enjoyed that. So I guess, yeah, those are my first thoughts, and I'll explain more later, but for now I'm gonna finish mashing these bananas, but I'll see you in a bit. I'm so good at this. Wow.
Yo, it's Lauren. It's actually really early in the morning. I've been so exhausted from work and I usually wake up early for it anyway, so I fell asleep early and I woke up at like 6:40. It's currently 6:54 and I think I'm going to finally continue reading Crying in H-Mart. I don't know why it's been so hard for me. I think because I've been really exhausted for one, and for another, like, I keep on not reading it like the times it's most convenient for me, which is like right when I wake up, which is like what happened when I was reading a lot in end of May, early June with like my last few series. I read them all like in the morning or just like right before I was going to sleep, even right after I came home from work. I haven't been doing that lately, so I'm hoping I'll do that today and that something ends up coming from it. But yeah, we're gonna start this. It usually helps if I play a YouTube video in the background when I'm reading, or like music or something, because I'm one of those people where it's easier for me to read if I have something else like that's sensory for me. So like whether it's like cafe, lo-fi, ASMR, like that kind of stuff, or like a YouTuber that I know where I don't really have to pay attention, but I like listening to their videos because they're calming to me. So I think I'm gonna do that. We're gonna see how this goes, but yes, let's hope this works. I'm hoping I can finish this today, and I know I'm capable of it. Like, look at this. I know what kind of reader I am. I'm definitely capable of that. That's what we're gonna do. Page 159 of Crying in H-Mart, and Michelle's mother just died. I mean, obviously it's been a brick since then because it's a memoir, and obviously it's already happened, but like reading leading up to it, knowing it was gonna happen, and then actually having it happen in the book, that was kind of intense. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I don't know. I've just been tearing up. That's so intense. Because I think for all of us, I think like some of our worst fears are like our parents dying or like our moms dying specifically. So reading that was intense. Especially seeing how like she draws out her relationship with her mom and all of the like ups and downs and like little secret things that even held them together at their worst moments. Like reading all of that and then reading this. Yeah, that's painful, man. Anyways, we're crying before it's even 8 a.m. in the morning. Ooh, that was heavy. I don't even know if I can talk about the craftsman shit yet because that was heavy, but I'm gonna continue reading this book. Finished Crying in H-Mart, which has not fully hit me yet because I've been reading this book for the longest time just because I was in a reading slump in the middle of reading it. And again, it was my first piece of nonfiction. I would call this more creative nonfiction, but nonfiction where like I picked it up voluntarily by myself. So the thing that was drawing me most in was the personal story and like all of the personal accounts and the detail and just the richness of language, and there's a lot of that in here, but somehow, I don't know. It's just been a hard summer reading wise for me, I think, but still I made it through and I can't say, like, this is phenomenal. It was really good. I have to give it 5 out of 5 stars, if only just because I can tell how much like love and effort went into this book, and there's so many things I could relate to. Again, I'm pretty sure I've said this in this video, but I'm first gen American. There's like a lot of things the author was talking about in a sense where like your connection to that culture, your connection to that hyphen and your identity to that like Nigerian American or Korean American comes from your parents, and you have to work towards like really like keeping that connection. Like you have to do a lot of work for that, and once your parents are gone, I can't even imagine how hard, like once my parents are gone, I can't even imagine how hard that might end up being for me. I can't imagine. I stopped the book in order to tell you guys in the vlog, but I did end up crying in the scene where she finally talks about how her mother died, and I ended up crying more as the book continued, and we just see Michelle like grasping for straws on like her identity, like making sure she's still a Korean because her mom wasn't there to affirm that side of her identity, of trying to like learn the little bits of Korean that she can, or to talk to her mom's older sister and continue to have that good relationship with her. And like even in the food, and we're like, she didn't really feel full until she started eating like Korean food again, because it's something that her mom made with her, and it's something that like they enjoyed a lot together. And it's not only like a big part of her identity like culturally, but it's part of her identity personally, in the sense where that's how she feels that connection to her mom, who's no longer obviously with us. So I don't know, it was just so amazing reading this book. Like, I think that's one of the first times, again, this is one of my first times picking up nonfiction. Not me tearing up again. I'm tired also as I'm finishing this book, so forgive me, but I think this is one of those first times I've read such a personal account of a stranger that's still like alive today. Like, I've definitely been forced to read nonfiction before, but it's from people that are like from decades in the past, or someone that's like nowhere near my age, someone that's not like relatable, or someone that's not, like, I can feel like I can meet them on the street and know who they are and like feel some strain of connectivity. This is the first time I've read something where I felt like it was so personal and a person's still so alive, and it just like, it makes me respect it so much. Like, I love this. It's such a reference language, like I said before, and I think every single time I read it, I know that the author did a good job, because I always felt hungry, which is why like whenever I read this book, I tend to read it while I was eating, or like while I was sipping or something, or just while, I don't know, my thoughts were centered on food as I was reading it. So I think part of the mission was definitely accomplished. But yeah, this was phenomenal. I have to give it 5 out of 5 stars. And I don't know why. This year, a lot for me, I think books relating to like relationships with parents have been hitting hard. Don't know what's up with that, but really loving it. I guess if you were looking forward to reading this book, I would highly recommend it. I might give a more in-depth review later when I have more sleep in a future video. But yeah, that's my reaction to Cry in H-Mart. 5 out of 5 stars. Will definitely give my review on Goodreads. So yeah, I guess thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my medias. They're always linked down below, including my Goodreads, because I know if there's a book video, y'all are probably interested in that. That's all I have, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.